New leadership at the Joplin Regional Airport. I'm Lisa Allegas, and you're watching Newsmakers. In this edition, we will meet new airport manager, learn about flights available, emergency response measures, including progress on the new aircraft rescue and firefighting building, and a look to the future with the airport board president. We begin our conversation by welcoming the new Joplin Regional Airport Director, Allison Zahner, and Joplin Director of Public Works, Dan Johnson. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Hi, thank you.
Congratulations, Allison, on your position.
Thank you.
So you are the first woman to hold this position, and you actually have your pilot's license. So I hear there's an interesting story there. How old were you when you got your pilot's license?
I was 17 when I got my pilot's license.
Wow. So why do you like flying so much? What is your passion about air flight?
My passion started in high school. I was in junior Air Force ROTC program in high school. And they had a private pilot ground class that I was a part of. That kind of sparked my interest. I wanted to learn more about aviation. And through that program, there was actually a scholarship from the Air Force Flight Academy, and that gave me the opportunity to get my pilot's license for free. So they sent me to California, California Baptist University. That's where I did my flight training at. It was an 8-week program, and then I was a licensed pilot before my senior year of high school.
That's amazing. Wow. That's exciting to know that you have that passion as well and you have that experience. You're not new to Joplin, as you were the airport's administrative assistant. You also have a degree in airport management. So Dan, tell us, why was Allison such a good candidate, and why is airport management kind of an important degree to have in this case?
Allison already had experience at our airport and the understanding the Part 139 requirements for airports, all of the FAA regulatory requirements, the reporting, keeping everything up to date, and it's all about keeping our airport safe and functional for the public. Having that knowledge and that training really helped her raise her above everyone else.
Yeah. Allison, how does your passion for flight help you understand the airport's needs?
I think my passion for flight, experience as a pilot, as well as my education and experience at the Joplin Airport, has given me a unique perspective. I think I can kind of see the big picture. I can see what the needs are as a pilot and a passenger, and just for anybody else at the airport.
Yeah. Well, let's discuss airport operations. Our airport has for years had essential air service, right? So that was with the government support from the FAA. That meant changing airlines many times over the years, changing destination cities. In 2022, a pilot shortage led the airline to wanting to drop the service from several cities. So what is our current status about where we fly and that whole essential air service?
Yeah, currently we fly to and from Denver and Chicago, and those are our only flights right now.
Mm-hmm. And are we still an essential air service city? Okay. What does that mean for Joplin to have that essential air service designation?
It provides funding for us to be able to have those flights. Some airports aren't as big as others. We're a regional airport, so without that funding, we wouldn't be able to have flights that can support the community and the flights that they need to get to the places they need to go.
Does the security of the airline service in Joplin, would consistency help drive usage, having these, knowing that we have like Denver and Chicago? We've changed different cities over the years. Having two cities that are consistently there, will that drive usage, do you think?
I think it will. Consistency is key, especially when it comes to load factor and how many passengers we have. If there's an increased demand or increased amount of passengers, that will increase our probability of expanding our service in the future.
What is the current demand at the airport? What was our annual number of flyers?
We are averaging for the past several months about 75% load factor, which is about 35 to 40 people per flight.
Okay. So at one time we did have service to Dallas. Is there any chance of seeing an increase in the number of cities that our airport might be able to serve?
Always.
Yeah.
We don't stop working on improving this service.
Mm-hmm. So do we have any cities in mind for the future that we might be trying to target?
Not at the moment. Right now our focus is keeping Denver and Chicago stable service, but we're trying to talk to the community and gather input and see what the demand is and just look into our options, and we're open.
So I was looking at the website, and it does say that you're seeking to be a designated disadvantaged business enterprise. What does that mean, and what can that bring to our
Yeah,
operation?
Airport Disadvantaged Business Enterprise is required for airports to receive FAA funding. So that essentially means that we will not discriminate, and we have open opportunity for businesses, and that's good for Joplin community and for businesses and growth.
So, and we're always hoping to grow the number of passengers. An FAA description says the airport has its own Class Delta airspace when the tower is open. What does that mean for those of us who aren't quite versed in FAA lingo?
Yeah, there's several different classifications of airspace. There's Alpha, Delta, Bravo, Charlie, and Echo. And they all have different regulations and requirements. There's a different sized airspace for each airport. Delta airspace is what is classified at the Joplin Airport, and that essentially means within that airspace, that is what the air traffic controller controls when they are open. When they're not open, it turns into a Class Echo, which means it's still controlled airspace, but they don't require communication with the tower to operate out of the airport.
Okay, thank you. That was hard to understand for the rest of us. So, Dan, there are private planes that also use the airport. How many are housed there, and what kind of activity does that create at the airport?
We are almost completely filled with all of our hangar space. We are actively working with potential interested parties to get more hangar space. That's something that we've built up over the years, and it's a great point. When you think of the airport, you think of that commercial carrier, and you have to have that commercial carrier. But our airport is also, it's a general aviation facility. We have a lot of private planes, and we have a lot of charter aircraft, and we have the hangars for the executive, the craft that are owned by companies.
So when you combine the commercial and the private, about how many flights are coming and going at our airport?
I looked at the report for the 2024 year. We have about 10,000 flights that are just local flights, and that's not including jet operations, itinerant, or airline operations. But we had about 25,000 operations, and an operation is a takeoff and a landing, so that's two. So we had about 25,000 within the year of 2024 for itinerant and local and jet traffic.
Pretty busy.
Yes.
So we'll be talking to the airport board president in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you both, what do you see as the biggest future need at the airport, and what's on your sort of wish list for improvement?
Yeah, well, we're currently seeking input from the community stakeholders, both general aviation and corporate leaders, to see what the demand is and what the needs are of that community. For now, our next big goal is to replace both of our passenger boarding bridges and to rehabilitate runway 1331 and taxiway Echo.
Okay, so is it not being used currently then?
It is being used currently. It will not be used. The section that's going to be rehabbed at that time will not be used, but that construction has not started yet.
Dan, if you could put something out there as a wish list, what are you thinking?
I would like to see more hangars, more private hangars come in. If anyone is listening and was thinking about building a hangar, we would be happy to sit down with you and try to get you, show you why Joplin's Airport is a great place for that.
Excellent. Well, one recent improvement was the aircraft rescue and firefighting building. I was there when you broke ground. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about emergency response and preparation at the airport as we go to break a look at the groundbreaking and the goal of the ARF building.
1, 2, 3. On March 6, 2024, Joplin city officials and airport staff and board members broke ground for the airport's aircraft rescue and firefighting building, a 12,353-foot facility that brings much-needed space for vital equipment.
Across the field, you can see our current, what's a very small building with 2 bays in it. Our 2 ARF trucks, although they fit, they barely fit.
In fact, there have been a few scrapes.
You only had about a couple of inches on either side from the mirrors.
It needs to be out there because otherwise you add about 10 or 15 seconds trying not to take a mirror off.
10 or 15 seconds may not sound like much, but in emergency response, time is critical, and having the ARF building located closer to the runway will make a difference.
We've done some testing when we did some site surveys. It's a good minute to a minute and a half faster, just because we don't have to, there's going to be a straight shot to the runway from here.
The ARF trucks are the first line of response in an airport emergency, even with a small crew.
We have 6 that are out here that cover 24/7, so they work a lot of times, and these trucks are designed for one person. So they can drive the truck and then extinguish flame with the nozzle that's on top. They actually steer it and provide the fire suppression from inside the truck. So in that case, we would be responding to an incident. If there was a fire, the ARF truck would be there to try to suppress the flame, but we would be dependent upon the Joplin Fire Department to get here in a timely manner to continue to do the work.
Keeping commercial runways and taxiways clear is part of an FAA mandate, so the building will also house snow removal equipment. The $8.6 million ARF building gets the bulk of its funding from the federal government.
95% of it's funded through federal funding. So a lot of that's the FAA Airport Improvement Plan program. That program is funded through aviation gas and jet fuel, so the people that use the airport pay for the facilities.
Starkey says the support shows the FAA has faith in our airport.
We have a really nice facility. For a regional airport our size, we have really nice facilities. We have a nice terminal. We just have a lot of things here that make us stand out for airports our size. And so when the FAA wants to put in the kind of resources they're going to put in here, they have a lot of trust that we're going to do things right.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we just saw the start of the latest addition to the airport, the Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Building. Joining our conversation as we discuss the importance of safety and emergency response at the airport are once again Airport Manager Allison Zahner, and joining the conversation is James Mac McBride, Interim Supervisor of Operations and Emergency Response. Thanks for being here, both of you. So quick response is the goal of the ARF building. How is it progressing, James? Where are we at?
It's pretty much done. We're working on getting furniture for it, and we have already housed some of our snow removal equipment, and actually was able to do that before this last snowfall. So
how has that storage made a difference? I mean, snow removal is very important. It has to be prompt.
It's so much nicer to know that you can get in the piece of equipment and not have to worry about defrosting before you start moving it. And then on top of that, if there's an issue with it, you have a good place to work on it instead of out in the elements like we've done in the past.
So part of this is to pick up the speed of response, and they told me about it cuts out like a minute and a half, which in emergency response is really important. Every second counts, doesn't it, Allison?
Sure does, yeah.
So talk to us about the difference you think the building's going to make.
Well, for one, the ARF doors go up faster, so there's less wait time for that. It's a better location. We have better visual for all the ends of the runway. And it gives us more opportunities for places to stage during an emergency.
You all had a disaster drill at the airport last fall. What kind of lessons were learned there? What did that teach you all as to what you needed to have in place?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, we do a full-scale emergency exercise every 3 years, and that was our most recent one. And it's really important for us to make sure that we can actually get to wherever the accident is within a timely manner. You have to do it within 3 minutes, I believe. Of course, you want it to be a lot less than that. So that was just a practice for our emergency response operations personnel to make sure that they're able to do that, and then make sure they're prepared in the case that there is an emergency like that.
Allison, what is the history of accidents at the airport? Have we had any? Have we had to do any kind of adapting to, make sure we don't have any?
We haven't had really any at the airport in a very long time, but there's accidents everywhere, all the time, all around the world. So the FAA and the Department of Transportation and other agencies like that kind of help you learn lessons from those regardless of where it was. If there was an accident in another state we're going to learn from it. We're going to see if there's something the airport can do to prevent something like that from happening at our location.
So one of the items that is something that is going to be mentioned in a video on your website is a beacon light. And you said that's going to be replaced. You got feedback about wanting that. What kind of a difference can that make? Why is it important to upgrade that beacon light?
Yeah, the beacon is essentially, it's essentially there for pilots to be able to see where the airport is and locate it, especially at night and in bad conditions, if, low clouds, if it's raining, something like that. And when it's dim and you can't see it there, sometimes pilots lose situational awareness. They're not sure where they are, where they're in location to the airport itself. So having that beacon be replaced, which will happen at the end of this year, will allow pilots to be able to see the beacon, which will improve safety, especially in the nighttime and worse conditions.
The FAA actually has a video on your website. It talks about the design of the airport and how best to navigate it. How does that add to safety? I mean, you yourself are a pilot. Are there things to know about an airport when you're heading in and landing?
Yeah, there's an industry phrase in aviation that if you've seen one airport, you've seen one airport. Every single airport is different. There's something unique about every single airport. There's hot spots, there's, some issues that pilots need to be aware of. So it's important for pilots to do their research instead of just flying in blind, basically, so that they know what to expect and to avoid those common hazards.
Are there certain hazards that pilots need to be aware of at the Joplin Airport, turns or lanes that are in a different situation?
Yeah, pilots can look at the airport diagram and they can see specific hotspots, and the hotspots are locations not necessarily where there have been a lot of accidents, but where there could be a lot of accidents, especially at intersections or locations where there's high traffic.
Yeah. James, tell us about all the safety equipment you have there. And we talked about the ARF, building, and then those vehicles are amazing. They can actually get out there and, put suppression systems in place. How many do we have of those vehicles, and what other equipment is there for safety?
We actually have 2 ARF trucks. One of them has 1,500 gallons of water and one of them has 1,000. That's the 2 main emergency response vehicles we have. Short of our ARF gear and the tools in the truck, that's about the gist of the safety stuff.
It's a pretty amazing truck, though. It can do a lot. I mean,
It does a lot. It has a capability of 350 gallons a minute up to 750 gallons a minute on both turrets. It has the bumper turret and the upper turret. So it'll reach out there quite a ways, and probably the most important thing to remember about those trucks is they don't have to be stationary to spray water. You can actually drive while you're spraying water. And you can spray the Purple K, the foam, all that while you're driving the truck.
so, that's going to be a pretty big crash rate. You can keep moving and hit all of it.
Yeah, and of course you have, one of the important things for us as our personnel also is with the pilots is the wind cones, knowing the wind direction and make sure you're upwind and not inhaling a bunch of smoke, and you get smoke in your eyes, you can't see what you're doing, and so you want to be upwind and fighting the fire and saving lives.
And then you said some of the walkways are going to be replaced. How will that add to safety? How old are those walkways? You talked in our last segment about wanting to replace those.
Talking about the boarding bridges.
The boarding bridges, yes.
Boarding bridges.
Yeah, those are pretty old. We've had them at the airport for a few decades now, and one of them isn't even functioning at the moment. So we do have one that is operational, and that's what we do use to ensure safety, but those are going out for bid sometime this summer, and they will be replaced within approximately a year after that. And replacing those will ensure that we have 2 that are always working, and it decreases costs because we've been having to spend a lot of money to keep the ones we have maintained. And it will also be more environmentally friendly. It is better for anyone who has a disability to be able to board the aircraft, and it will have air conditioning, things like that, so it'll be a lot better for the passengers.
Excellent, a great improvement. All right, well, thank you both for sharing all this about emergency response. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll be rejoined by the president of the airport board to look ahead to the airport's future. Welcome back to Newsmakers. We just discussed the new aircraft rescue and firefighting building. It, like other renovation projects at the airport, are funded by grants. Those are coordinated in part by the Airport Board. Joining our conversation now is Airport Board President Rob O'Brien, and returning with us is Airport Manager Allison Zahner. Rob, thanks for joining our conversation.
Happy to do so.
So the ARF building is funded with some grants, including the FAA's Airport Improvement Program. Provides like $6.5 million of this big project. How is it part of a bigger plan for the airport, this ARF building?
Well, one of the things that the airport goes through that is really dictated by the FAA is a comprehensive long-range plan, and that's undertaken every few years to set the stage for that. And those needs are identified. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the funding comes up just like that, but what it does is identify the needs, and is part of what the FAA then can consider as they look at funding each year and whether there are opportunities for funds to be made available to the airport. Now, as those come up, obviously the staff, and Allison is in that mode right now, has to make application for funds for these type of large-scale capital improvement projects. But there are also funds that come from the FAA just for airport operations each year. One of the advantages of being a commercial airport is that a substantial part of the operations of the airport are covered by FAA funding. And if we were a general aviation airport only, that funding for airport operations would be covered 100% by the city. So it's a positive thing for us to be in that mode.
Yeah. So how does all this fall within the strategic plan? I mean, are there other aspects of the plan that you're looking at right now?
Well, one of the things we're doing right now, which is really, I think, the board has been more active in trying to look ahead, not just in the terms of the capital improvements, but really what are we doing to improve air service for the community, for this region that the airport serves. And so for the past several months, we've been doing a series of roundtables with the board, and inviting in airport users, those folks who use the general aviation facilities, who have their own personal aircraft or corporate aircraft at the airport, as well as those companies that are pretty heavy users of the airport for business. And so we've been asking their opinion of what would make things better, would improve the service at the airport long term. We're also taking that information, compiling it into a survey so we can more broadly ask that question to businesses throughout the region that we assume use the airport, but we want to find out if they do, and if they do, how much.
Yeah.
And what would encourage them to use the airport more.
Well, you were director of the Chamber of Commerce. So tell us, what is, the relationship of how important a good, solid, safe airport is to business in the community? How are they interacted?
Well, it's very important. The airport, if we go back several years pre-COVID, the airport was probably 80% used for business travel. Not just our businesses in the region putting people out there, their salespeople, their customer service people, sending people out for training, but also in terms of people coming in to the community to work with our businesses. And again, their vendors, their customers, people they brought in to help them with their training and so many other things. So it was very important. Now, we've seen a little shift of that post-COVID, and I think part of that is after that period of time, people felt a little more cooped up. They were ready to travel again, and in that context, we've seen more pleasure travel. I think just because people are starting to realize the great benefit of flying from Joplin for this region. It's close to home. And the parking is free, which
It does make a big difference.
It does make a big difference. And with the two hubs at Chicago and Denver, you can get to a lot of places. But Lisa, back to your commentary, business is a big driver of the airport, but conversely, the airport supports businesses throughout the region and helps make them more successful. It's a big plus for the community and for the region for economic development.
And Allison, how do you feel like upgrades play a role in keeping that business going as a business driver and delivering better flight service? How do these upgrades maybe entice more people to use the airport?
Yeah, upgrades never stop. We're always looking to improve and looking, to see how we can make the air service more efficient and safer.
And then if folks said, hey, I'll travel here because of the cost difference, do you think the parking and all that can't make a difference as to using the Joplin Airport? Are there certain, what would you say to sell the Joplin Airport to people who are wanting to fly and might say, I'll just drive to Tulsa or I'll drive to Arkansas?
Well, I think one, it's a convenience factor. We have we're in an area, a broad area, that really has multiple options for air travel, which actually is a blessing in many respects. There are parts of the country who have none, and so that's a benefit through folks throughout the region. But more specifically to Joplin. It's convenient to many people in the region to drive to Joplin. It's easy to access. It is, we keep saying free parking, but that can mount up
It does.
for a lot of people.
It can make a big difference in the ticket price.
Makes a difference in cost. And also as a smaller airport, it's obviously convenient to get in, get ticketed, get to the gate.
That's right.
And when you come in to the airport, your baggage is right there and quickly, and your car is not riding a little bus to get to your car. You just walk out and your car is there and you leave.
Well, thank you both for sharing everything about the Joplin Airport. Allison, welcome to the new role you have, and good luck to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. If you would like to learn more about the Joplin Airport or get information on flights, go to the city's website, www.joplinmo.org. I'm Lisa Allegas. Thanks to all our guests, and thank you for watching Newsmakers.